So today we'll be discussing traveler's diarrhea and
Mm-hmm.
food poisoning
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's something that's quite common,
Mm-hmm.
but also a very hot topic for people coming to Southeast Asia
Yes, yes. Or living in Southeast
or
Asia.
living.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Um, so to start off, can you tell me what the difference between traveler's diarrhea and food poisoning is?
Mm, it's not really so much difference. The first one is it happened during the travel, usually vacation, but can be also for business trip. The second one is the fact that it comes from contaminated food. And most of the travel diarrhea comes also from contaminated food or water. So
Okay.
basically, it's the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So from what I understand, the diarrhea part is a symptom,
Mhm.
and but the actual cause of this current situation is food poisoning. Is that correct?
Yes, food poisoning is the definition of the disease, which means symptoms which a person will have. Diarrhea is one of the main symptoms, but not the only one. Is induced by the fact that the food was poisoned, which means contaminated
Mm-hmm.
by different type of bacteria, viruses, parasites. So all of them, even toxin
Okay.
from bacteria as well. Also. So the cause may be different type of causal agents, but the bottom line will be symptoms mainly related to diarrhea and different type of severity depending on the type of causal agent.
Okay. Um, so why do you think it's so common in Southeast Asia?
Oh, if you travel to Africa, it's very common also,
Okay.
uh, but probably less in Europe. But it can still happen in Europe or in the USA, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference here in Asia, people have exposure to beautiful and very nice food on the street. And even though it's very appealing, very tasty, and even sometimes good, but the issue on street food is often they don't have running water to
Okay.
clean all the dishes, the utensils, and so on. So it's easier to get contaminated by people making the food also.
Mm-hmm.
While if you are in a occidental setup, then the cook will be in very specific place. He has access, of course, to toilet. It's easier. Some hygiene rule which is enforced
Yes.
even by the government.
Yeah.
While in typical street food is they do whatever they want.
Less enforcement.
There is very minimal enforcement.
Yes.
For instance, street food which we see in Bangkok,
Mm-hmm.
there is no possibility to exist in France. Actually, in some area of France, some people are selling almost this kind of food without really respecting the strict hygiene regulation in France, like the kind of meat which is turning
Kebab.
the kebab, for instance. But kebab is I think, quite good type of food because it's cooked and recooked, actually
Mm-hmm.
grilled all the time. What sometimes is a bit risky if the vegetables are not clean at the same time and put in the same sandwich or things like this. But food poisoning can happen also in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
but the incidence will be much lower because normally there is a better respect for food cooking and hygiene around the way of cooking.
Okay. So if we go back to the symptoms, what are the typical symptoms of traveler's diarrhea?
As you mentioned earlier, the cardinal symptom, the main symptoms will be diarrhea. There are very few food poisoning without diarrhea. It can happen. In that case, it will be mainly vomiting.
Okay.
Sometimes, and that is because of some toxin from bacteria, often by some cook which is not taking necessary precautions, or the food which is left over.
Mm.
And with the heat at 35 degrees, if you
Yeah.
put something which is a bit sweety, uh, bacteria will proliferate very, very quickly. So very quickly you can get an excess of toxin or bacteria, and then you are infected by this kind of food. So in that particular case, some people may have only vomiting, but mainly food poisoning or truffle diarrhea include diarrhea first, kind of feeling not so well, because when you have a diarrhea, you lose water and you lose nutrients, abdominal pain, sometimes the cramps can be a bit painful. Beside, vomiting can also happen. Then you don't feel so good, you have also headache. And the main problem is if they lose too much water and minerals, because that will trigger dehydration. Before dehydration, there is no problem, basically. Some of the very acute type of diarrhea induced by cholera. You have heard probably about cholera. Cholera is a type of bacteria which is often found in epidemics by contaminated water. So people will absorb this kind of contaminated water, and the bacteria will be putting a lining on the whole intestine, which means all the water cannot be absorbed by the intestine and goes straight to the feces. In the extreme example of cholera, people can lose 10 liters in one day.
Wow.
The whole water also will go through the feces as well. Besides this bacteria is not going to kill them. The dehydration will kill people with cholera. If they have just the time to put an IV fluid, because you have to put IV fluid because they have very intense diarrhea and also vomiting, then after 2 or 3 days is over and the person will not pass away from this kind of acute event. But without proper dehydration, that will be the major problem for this extreme type of acute diarrhea. In between, you have all those other type of food poisoning, which most of the time induced very minor dehydration, which can be compensated by just taking fluids, drinking water, mineral water, because when you have a vomiting and diarrhea, you lose water, but also minerals, a lot of minerals like sodium, chloride, potassium, magnesium, and so on. So normally when people have some symptoms of minor dehydration, the best way is to take the oral pack, which you find in sachets, which you find in 7-Eleven type of community shops.
Yes.
Or you take a sports drink. Sports drinks is also fine. It's a lot of sugar and salt. Coca-Cola can be used exceptionally for that. I insist. And for people who are in a remote area, there is a recipe, the old recipe, which is 1 liter of water, clean water, of course, with about 6 teaspoons of sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. You mixed
to make your own saline
solution. You make your own saline solution, yes.
Okay. So the main concern for travelers' diarrhea or food poisoning would be the dehydration.
Yes.
That's when it gets critical.
Exactly. As long as they have not so much dehydration and they can still drink, even though they may have some vomiting, they just have to wait for a while. Not to jump immediately. We'll see maybe the treatment after, but most of the case can be resolved by itself. Just limiting. Actually, you have to let it be. We don't advise to use a product which will block the motility of the intestine, like Imodium, which is very famous, loperamide, because it works very well.
It stops everything.
The extract, exactly, but it keeps also the bad bacteria or virus inside the body, which is not good. But sometimes you have to use it because it can be very painful. You can use a little bit for a while to avoid this going to the toilet 2 or 3 times within 1 hour. But it's better to avoid. Antibiotics also. the issue with antibiotics, they don't necessarily kill only the bad bacteria. If it's bacterial food poisoning, they may also disrupt the intestinal flora. And that can be a big issue sometimes.
Okay.
Because the bad bacteria will be killed, but the intestinal flora is so much affected that you keep abdominal pain and continuing movement of bowel for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks because of the unnecessary use of antibiotics, which is very common, especially here also in Thailand. They jump quite quickly to antibiotics. Sometimes it's very necessary when the diarrhea is very severe, when there is a bloody diarrhea, for instance, a lot of mucus, so there could be some invasion of the bacteria within the gut.
Okay.
So antibiotherapy will be indicated. But beside this case, it's better not to use antibiotic.
And a common treatment in Thailand is to use carbon pills to absorb
Yes.
the virus or bacteria.
Yes. No, it helps. It helps.
It helps?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Although on the scientific part, it's not really promoted as first-line treatment.
Okay.
The main things to do when you have a diarrhea like this, you have to know that unfortunately it will last 1 day, 2 days, sometimes 3 days in bad cases. You will recover for sure. You just watch not to be dehydrated. So as long as you can still drink and eat a little bit, of course, eat a little bit. There's no point to eat a lot when you have diarrhea because the gut is not also in good shape also to absorb the nutrients. So you move to some kind of congee soft food. Fruits also, banana is also full of potassium, is also good for that. And again, you let the episode pass.
Okay, so can you go through the main signs of dehydration? What are the critical red flags that this is in the dehydration stage and we should get medical?
The first sign of dehydration is when you feel thirsty a lot. And there will be also sign of fatigue because when you don't have the full hydration, your body is not functioning very well. So that will be a sign. And the thirst will be sometimes very important. At that time, you just have to drink if you can drink. Unfortunately, sometimes it happens for some people who have very sensitive gut. They will vomit all the time.
Yes.
Not so much diarrhea. They will lose a little bit from the diarrhea, but that's the main problem. Every time they would like to hydrate again, they will vomit. And that is very painful. In such a case, it's useful to see a doctor in consultation, just in a normal clinic. No need to be necessarily in the hospital for that, to have antiemetic treatment, medication which avoid to vomit.
Okay.
They are quite effective now. And then you start to reintroduce drinks little by little, usually cold, not too hot, because even for the food, congee, we are talking about congee, lukewarm type of drink and food, it's better absorbed by the stomach and intestine.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Now, for dehydration, it can happen with lower urination. You don't have so much water, so you don't urinate. The urine are much darker, concentrated, in fact. And what is important to look at is for young babies, because young babies, they will not, of course, express so much.
And communicate.
You see the lack of urination by diapers, which is dry. And something which is very important to look at is the eyes. The eyes, even for adults, is sunken eyes, a bit going inside.
Deep sunken eyes.
Yeah. And for the baby, they will try to cry, but there is no tears.
Because there's no water.
Because there is no water. Okay. So parents should immediately recognize this, because the babies have a lot of content of water as compared with adults, so they can lose more quickly. And sometimes, unfortunately, they will put in a room which is also too hot, and they will still also have tendency to sweat unnecessarily. and they can have a more severe dehydration. So dehydration is something which can lead to very, very serious symptoms. So it has to be recognized, treated early when it's still possible to drink. And if it's become too severe or because the vomiting is permanent, then they have to go to a hospital in observation room to have IV fluid. And normally, for most of the case, you don't need to be hospitalized for that. The worst case scenario, more severe case scenario is you have a moderate to almost severe dehydration. You go to hospital, the doctor take care of you in emergency room, put IV fluid, pass 1 liter of saline solution combined with glucose, and monitor your blood pressure and things like this, and you can go home after a few hours observation. In a worst case scenario, yes, you might be admitted and stay usually 1 night.
Okay. So,
but it's enough to ruin the trip. That's why
Yes.
we made the topic of travel diarrhea.
Yes.
People usually takes 1, 2, or 3 weeks vacations. Sometimes it can be almost 3 or 4 days of diarrhea or having
Stomach pains.
stomach upset, and you cannot really visit the temples
Yes.
during this time. So it can really make a bit
It can ruin the trip.
yes,
Yes.
yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
So you've been living in Southeast Asia for quite some time, and
Right.
especially in Thailand.
Mhm.
Street food and the cuisine in Thailand is very famous.
Mhm.
What is your advice on street food and just ensuring that what can still get the culture, but also be aware of the risks?
Everything which is not properly cooked is risky
Okay.
in street food. For those expats who live long time, we believe that we will get used to different type of viruses, bacteria which contaminate this. And as long as it's not a huge contamination of the food, you don't have so much problem. But as a matter of precaution, especially for those who are not used to that, because it's not only the food, it's also they change climates.
Yes.
People come, for instance, on vacation. They leave Europe is already -5 degrees. Arrive here it's already 30 degrees. So they have the shock, they have
The body shock.
fatigue of the trip, excitement, take some food. So it's a mixed component of having some kind of issues with the stomach because of also the environment of traveling early, arriving in a place like Thailand. But now coming back to what you asked me on the food itself and street food, obviously if you take some kind of salad on the street food, it's risky because how the salad was properly cleaned first, and there is no running water on the pavement here. So something which is purely raw food is risky. Any raw food in the context of street food presents some risk. So, but if you take kway teow noodles and things is boiling since the morning, this is okay. They will put the noodles in a very hot food, serve it like this. The what do you call
the heat.
The food in a round shape.
Lukshin.
Lukshin gung or lukshin pla. This has been cooked also there, so it's a safe food. So grill, stick of satay, things like this. There is not so much risk here.
Okay. So do you think that local people have a higher immunity to these bacteria, or is it just are local people's stomach just more used to it, more tolerant?
Probably some local immunity adaptation for that. The same for expats living here, but everybody is still at risk of having a food poisoning, depending on the type of contaminant you get in your food.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems that for expats who are used here, they are adjusted and they are probably less at risk than the traveler coming here, coming from Europe first days here and jumping into the street food because street food is so appealing also.
Yes.
So I think these people have more risk than the traditional expat. And probably also expat will be also more careful. They know the kind of food which is a bit more risky. And and also Thai people, they have their own vendors.
Yes.
Vendors they trust, so they have more less risk with this kind of people. Because some of the vendors on the street are very, in a way, clean.
Hygienic, yes.
Are very careful in cooking the food. So that's different reason why the locals may be less exposed to the newly arrived travelers.
Okay. And so as a traveler on a holiday, if someone was to get diarrhea, is there any shortcut or quick treatment that would shorten the recovery process, or is it just something that you need to deal with that, okay, it'll take maybe 3 days and it will just pass?
I don't think you can really shortcut that. The bacteria there are inside your stomach. One intention would be to try to kill it. Antibiotic. You have to be very wise to do that. I mean, very careful, because you can have the side effects of antibiotic.
Yes.
So instead of having the natural course of this particular diarrhea, let's say 2 days, then you may have 1 or 2 weeks. So what is important is not to go along with the possible complications. And the main complication being dehydration. You have to make sure you are hydrated at all time, both water and minerals. Okay, and then you introduce the food progressively, not too quickly, because you may have some nausea and vomiting. That will again ruin some more days. So
Yes.
I don't think we can really make it shorter.
No
not
shortcut.
really. And there is no magic bullet or vaccination for that. There is a vaccination, Ducoral. The name is Ducoral for people going to endemic area of cholera, which has some kind of efficacy. But as I told you at the beginning, so it can be a virus, can be a toxin from a bacteria, virus, or parasite. You cannot have a vaccine which protects all these different things. So it's not really advised to take vaccine.
Okay. And if someone does get sick for diarrhea, the main action, if it doesn't get better in a couple of days, would be to go to a clinic or to a hospital?
It depends. If you don't have any sign of dehydration, and you can still drink without permanent vomiting.
Okay.
The only, if you can still drink, you can have a fasting condition for 3 days without any problem.
Okay.
You are not going to die from that. Maybe after diarrhea, you can lose 1 or 2 kilos. Yeah, it's possible. But there is no need to rush to the hospital for that. The only reason, for my opinion, to rush to the hospital, if the diarrhea seems to be very massive, profuse, with a bloody type of diarrhea, with a lot of mucus, so things doesn't seem to be normal diarrhea, if I may say. At the same time, feeling a lot of weakness, sometimes up to lethargy. So people are really so down, headache also, don't feel so good. That can be also early sign of more moderate to severe dehydration. So it's worth to go to hospital.
Okay.
Or for the minor diarrhea, they have to know that it will not stop in 1 day most of the time. If it's purely toxin infections, sometimes the incubation from the contaminated food can be a few hours, and the episode will last just 1 night. And then next Monday, you are already fine. That's a good case. But more traditional, typical diarrhea is 2 to 3 days. You don't feel comfortable, you stay at home, you don't enjoy visiting the temples, for sure. Make sure you are hydrated. And if after the 3rd day is not yet back to some kind of normalization, diarrhea has already reduced significantly, but still important here, yes, you can see a a doctor in that case, but no need to go to hospital.
Okay.
The need to go to hospital will be really if something is wrong in terms of the quantity of diarrhea combined with vomiting and the sign that you feel really down. Really
The energy levels.
Right, energy level is down. And hospital doesn't need to admit you immediately. Doesn't need you to receive antibiotics also, but to have an observation period, about 3 to 6 hours in emergency room, just to reassess your condition after sometimes IV hydration, and then that's often is enough.
Okay. Thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
It's been very interesting.
Thank you. One more point I wanted to say also is when you travel in Asia, when you have symptoms which include vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, without any upper respiratory tract infections, okay, you have to be careful about some disease which often are misdiagnosed or not recognized, which is malaria, for instance. Okay. In some area where malaria is prevalent also, especially for young people, I mean, children, it's better to see the hospital to check for a simple blood smear to make sure it's not malaria, because malaria has different type of symptoms, but can also simulate.
Can have diarrhea.
Can have diarrhea and vomiting as well.
Okay.
But usually, traditionally, it's very, very high fever. We don't see so much in diarrhea. There is fever, but not very high fever, like in dengue, for instance. And dengue is really a typical viral infections which people feel immediately in their own body. But diarrhea is definitely more for the abdominal tract. So it's where you have most of the symptoms. But in Asia, it's only on the symptoms. It's not always easy to make sure that it is just a plain and simple traveler diarrhea, especially for young kids. It might be wise also to check with the doctor. If something does not immediately return to normal within 1 or 2 days, it's useful to see a doctor in a clinic.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.